Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello dear friends, welcome back to Spiritism and the Media here on Kardec Radio. Today I'm bringing for us the book Happy Life by Joana de Angelis, channeled by Divaldo Franco. Usually I bring this book in the end for us to have an uplifting message and to think a little bit about that. But today I'm bringing that to the beginning of our meeting because there's a good message here on number 49 for us to think a little bit when we are talking about media, about news. So I would like for us to think about that, to study that, and later we're going to read a message from another book to finish our meeting. So here from the book Happy Life, number 49. So Joana de Angelis says here, many people relish spreading bad news, convince unsound ideas and opinions. They are couriers of unrest. Be very discreet when with them. They will test your resolve with gossip, only to distort your comments and pass them on to someone else. In such circumstances, silence is the cordon that dampens the noise of the spread of growing evil. Those that bring you the garbage of slander are not your friends. So that's a very good and strong message regarding the bad news. So first, I'd like us to think a little bit about bad news, as they say here, bad news and gossip. We have already studied that here, talked about that here. So those bad news or those gossip, we could say that they are any kind of news, any kind of information that come to us that are not relevant to us. And when we are talking about someone else without that person knowing that, when we are bringing some ideas or thought that may not be true, that we are not 100% certain if that it's the truth or not. So we have many different opinions, many different different ways to define those bad news and to think about that news. So there are many bad news that we face daily in our lives. For example, if someone comes to us and talks about someone else, talks some bad things about that person, or criticizes that person, or if we are watching the news and we are actually seeing some kind of tragedy, and even though that tragedy is happening, it's happening, but if the way they're bringing that news is anyway a sensationalism, like just for us to work with our emotions and to emotions of what is happening for us to catch our attention, but many times without really trying to help in the situation or trying to bring something that can be helpful to us. So all of them, they can be bad news. And here, Joana de Angelis is saying that there are many people who, what do? They spread those news. And that way we can put ourselves in both sides. Many times we are the ones who are receiving, and many times we are the ones who are giving those bad news. Even though we don't really think about that, many times we think we are not doing that, but that's why it's very important for us to ask ourselves anytime we are bringing information to someone else if that's something really good for us to bring, that's something important for that person or not, or we may face that world of gossip that we talked here a few times. So many times we may be bringing gossip to other people's lives instead of bringing news that are really relevant to them. And so what is she saying here? She's talking for us to be discreet when we are dealing with those people. So we are dealing with someone who comes to us with those news. She talks us for us to be discreet. Why? Because sometimes those persons, they just want to bring some quote that we say and to pass on. So what do? They come and they talk, they bring some bad news, so we are going to make some comment about that without even knowing that's true or not, but we make a comment and the person catch that comment, adds to that information and spread it. So when we see the person is talking about us when talking about that news too. So let's suppose if the person comes and tells something very personal about a friend and we make a comment about that, and then that person can come back to that friend and say, see, Marcelo said this and that about you. Or come to a third person and says, see, that person did this thing and Marcelo said that it is this or that. So when we see we're in the middle of a gossip without even knowing that or without really realizing that. So she tells us for us to be discreet when we are faced with those people that bring us those bad news. And what is the remedy here? What is her suggestion? For us to be silent, to keep silent. So the bad thing, okay, someone comes to us with those news. If we do not want to say many times, we don't want to say stop, I don't want to hear that, or the person just come and spread that and say out loud without us having the chance to stop. So okay, we can listen to that and keep silence. So we are not going to comment anything to that person. We are not going to spread the news to anybody else. So it finishes here. So we are not going to spread it. We're not going to be as that person, the person that we are here saying that is bringing bad news. We're not going to be another person bringing bad news to other, or we are not going to add any information to that bad news. So the person is not going to spread our quotes or opinions or to say anything in our name to others. And the same applies when we are watching TV, we are reading a newspaper, or we are listening to the news on the radio. If we see something that we don't think it's good enough, it's pleasant enough, we don't think it's relevant to anyone, why are we going to comment? Many times it's very easy for us to go. We do not have anything to say in a group of people, those small talks that we say, and we bring any information that we don't know if it's true or not. So it may be considered a gossip. Many times it's fake news. We have talked about fake news here too. So it's very easy to spread that. So what Joana de Angelis is saying here, for us to be silent. And we can see, for example, a book that I love a lot, Jesus in the Home. We see that Jesus is always in silence. All the time he listened to the disciples, he stayed for a while in silence, and then he makes his comment after thinking, after seeing all the sides of that topic. So as we always say, as the spirits tell us in the Spirit's book, watch Jesus. Let's see what Jesus used to do, his examples, and try to be as him. So here, as Joana de Angelis is saying, to be silent. So let's try to be silent, and Jesus used to be when faced with those kinds of news or information. And so she finishes here saying, those that bring you the garbage of slander are not your friends. So for us to think a little bit about that. And again, not only talking about the others, but also talking about ourselves. So if I am the one bringing those news to a friend, am I really their friends? Why am I bringing that to them? So many times we are in that position without really realizing that. So it's a good passage, I think, for us, not only to see how we deal when we receive those news, but if I am the one bringing that news to others. So let's think a little bit about that too. Let's put ourselves in both sides, in both positions, so we can better act, we can be an example in our daily lives. And so for us to finish here our meeting, I brought this other book by Joana de Angelis, Living and Loving, also channeled by Divaldo Franco. So I'm going to open it randomly here. So it's lesson 16, Doubt and Failure. To doubt is a healthy attitude when we seek a better understanding of the causes of things and situations. In scientific investigation, for instance, To doubt is a necessity until the findings are proved right. Schools of thought usually start with questioning in order to reach for new concepts and expanded information. Systematic doubt, however, expresses an imbalance of reason and generates emotional problems. As far as spiritual realities are concerned, no laboratory experiment has been able to prove that there is no intelligent life after death. On the other hand, there are facts that assert spirit survival to bodily death and its pre-existence to birth. Unstable people try to shun their assumed duties, excusing themselves with doubt, and do not care to persist in the search for spiritual reality. A patient who doubts his own cure corrodes his mind with pessimistic thoughts and destroys the very elements which would promote health. Consequently, his pathological condition aggravates regardless of proper clinical treatment. Remember what Jesus told the Apostle Thomas, who was doubtful whether the Master had really returned from the dead. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. Thank you so much for your company. May God bless all of us, and see you next week.